We're going to review for our Unit 5 test. There is a typo on number 1. Please make sure you make this a -6. So in order to do this, what would be the solution? Remember, your solution is always your XY coordinate. So we are looking for where these cross. You can use list and spreadsheets to write these equations. So you did have to write your coordinates here. Remember, list and spreadsheets, menu 413. And then I also use list and spreadsheets to come up with this equation as well. Keep in mind that when the equations have the same slope but different y-intercepts, they are going to be parallel. You can use Desmos to graph both of those if you're not sure what that looks like, to see if in fact it is infinite solutions, if they are on the same line, or if they are parallel. So you can see that these are parallel. So this is going to be no solution, right? If it's infinite, they have to be exactly the same. When you look at number 2, you're going to have to do your solution set. You need to change this to y equals. So we're going to move our ax and we're going to divide everything by 4. And if you want to see what this looks like, you could graph it and see what that line would look like. If you're not sure, but you're not going to be able to graph that inequality, okay? You could, if you weren't sure what those fractions simplified to, you could, in fact, just put the fraction in. So you can see this starts at 2, right? We went up 3 over 2 for our rise over our run. This means that it is going to be a dotted line and it's below because it is a less than. So here's my dotted line and below. Number 3 is talking about writing the system. Please write it out first. Keep in mind, money needs to stay with money. We have 75 pencils, regular and mechanical. So regular and mechanical, I have 75 total. And then I'm going to keep money with money, 28 cents for a regular, 57 cents for a mechanical is $20. So this is my money equation. If I look at my answer choices down here, no and no, because this is 75 that we bought. Pay very close attention. Notice this one is in fact backwards. So it is B. Number 4, what is the y value of the equation? You can do a couple of different things here. This is already y equals. You could change this to y equals and graph it. I'm going to use substitution on this one since it is in fact y equals. So if this is y, I can put this in place of y. Make sure that you set it up correctly. Make sure you put that -1 there. Sometimes we forget our signs. So I'm going to distribute. I'm going to collect like terms. I'm going to move my regular numbers to one side. And then I'm going to divide. I get x equals -5, which would be great except for it's asking for y. So I need to take and I'm going to plug this back in. 3 minus a -5. You could use your calculator if you needed to, or y equals 8. Remember, you can plug these in to double check that you get a true statement for both, to make sure you've done this correctly. So you could say 5 times -5 plus 3 times 8 equals -1. We get true, but you have to get true for both. So 8 for my y equals 3 minus -5 for my x. True for both means that yes, in fact, we did this correctly. Number 5, writing the system from a table. You're going to want to use list and spreadsheets here. menu 413. If you're using Desmos, you can put in the table and you have to do the y1 squiggle mx1 plus b in that second row to get those equations. When you do this, you get negative 6x plus 15 for A, and for B, you get negative 3x minus 9. Most of you are pretty good with menu 413, so I'm just going to give you the answer on that one. Number 6 is again writing. Look for those keywords. Remember, you can use Scratchpad and you can go through and you can mark keywords. No more than means it could be exactly 4,500 or it could be less. So knowing that, I can get rid of A and C. Please read very carefully. Each monitor is 250. Each keyboard is 50. Which inequality represents the possible combinations? X is monitors. So I'm going to come back up here where the monitor is, and I'm going to put the X, and Y is keyboards. So when I do that, I can see that my 250 is with the X, and my 50 is with the Y. So I know it's B. These are backwards. And they do like to do that a lot. So please, please, please read super, super carefully. Number 7 is very, very tricky. There's a lot of ways to do this. This is not a very friendly question. It's giving you all of this information, and then it's telling you for the graph, the equation that they've graphed here is 32 people came into the store and made in-store purchases. Notice down here it says in-store at the bottom on the graph. So this is the X, deliveries is the Y. You can see it on the side here. So this equation is actually 32x plus 17y equals 7788.90. That is the equation of this line. They're giving you a second equation down here. You can graph that, which is going to be kind of tricky. You could probably do substitution. They're asking us to find the best estimate, the average amount of money each delivery earned for the grocery store during the first hour of business. And the key here is delivery. So delivery is, we want the Y. So if you want to use Desmos, this is already in Y equals. You could change this equation to Y equals. And when you do that, you can put those fractions into Desmos just like you see them. So we could take our Desmos here, and I'm going to actually put those fractions in. I'm going to say Y equals 7788.9, and then in the bottom I have 17, and then I have minus 32 over 17, and I'm going to put my X out here. I can't see it on my graph just yet. And then I'm going to put in this other equation that they gave us, Y equals 1.03x plus 4.95. We're going to have to kind of, there it is. And I can, remember in Desmos, you can double tap. So 155.6, that's my X. So looking at the X's down here, that's the cost of in-store groceries, but that's not what they're asking us about. They're asking us about delivery. So that was my Y over here, was delivery. So my answer, and it says estimate, so we can just write 165. So if you want to change everything to Y equals so you can graph it, that's fine. If you get some ugly fractions, don't change it to ugly decimals. Just leave it a fraction and it will do it just fine for you. Here, how many donuts did I buy? I have a total. Remember, total means adding, and we have equals, we have donuts and kolaches. This is not money. So I have donuts, I have kolaches. There were 36 of them. Then I have money, right? Donuts are 50 cents and kolaches are $1.50. And I spent 32. This is my money equation. How you solve it is up to you. You could do elimination, you could do substitution, you could change it all to graphing. I think I'm going to do elimination here. And I'm going to eliminate, I want to find out how many donuts I have, so I'm going to eliminate my kolaches. Now, if I'm going to do elimination, I need a positive and a negative of the same number and letter. Okay, so this needs to be a negative 150 if this is a positive. So I'm going to multiply this whole top equation by negative 150. Negative times a positive is a negative. And I can use my calculator for 36 times a negative 150. And I get 54 even. I'm going to rewrite this down here. So I have positive 50 donuts, positive 150 kolaches, and 32. Oh, I forgot my negative here. Please be careful. That happens a lot. Okay, negative times a positive. I should have had a negative there. This goes away. A negative 150 and a positive 50 is a negative 1. And a negative 54 and a positive 32, I'm going to subtract these, is 22, negative. I have more negatives. So I need donuts to be positive. I'm going to divide by a negative 1. I have 22 donuts. Make sure that variable when you solve is alone and positive. Graphing here, keep in mind that this number in front of the y is negative. So that means you are going to have to flip your inequality. You're going to end up multiplying or dividing by a negative. These lines do not all look the same. So you're going to need to definitely change this. So we can add 4x to both sides. We're dividing everything by that negative 6. Remember, when you do that dividing by the negative, this now becomes y is greater than negative 54 divided by negative 6 is positive 9. Negative divided by a positive. You could leave that a fraction if you wanted, or you could simplify it. So we can go ahead and we can graph that to see what it looks like. You cannot graph the inequality, but you can graph the equation. All right, you can do menu 4 and zoom out. So it is going down. Now all of them are going down, so that's a plus. Now this has or equal to, so this is going to be a solid line and it's greater than, so we need to shade above. So since this is a solid line, I know C is not an answer and B is not an answer. Those are dotted lines and we need to shade above. So this one is above and this one is below. So it has to be A. Okay. What is the solution to the system? Again, you could graph this to see what it would look like. I know based on my y-intercept, I can count my slope, -3 over 1. This is a dotted line. I'm going to shade below because it's less than. This one is a solid line. I'm going to shade above because it's greater than. So I can go ahead, I can draw my dotted line. I'm going to shade below, right? Below the -2 is down here. So I'm going to do that real light. So when I do the other direction, I can see my overlap. -8 is way down here. Rise 3, run 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is positive. My line is going to go up. Here's my solid, and I need to shade above the -8. So that means I'm going this way No overlapping here. This is my overlap, so this is where my solution set. All of these coordinates in this shaded area and on this line are solutions. They will make my inequalities, both of them, true. Dotted lines, not a solution. Here, same concept. You can change it to y equals if you want. Look, this is a -1. When we divide by a negative, we have to flip our inequality. Okay? So y is now less than or equal to a negative divided by a positive is a negative. Negative and a negative is a positive. That part doesn't really matter because they've given us the line. This is what matters. This is going to be a solid line, and we need to shade below. Below this -1 means we're shading on this side. So our solutions are in the shaded region. Here and here, we only need 2, but because this is a solid line, this one is true as well. If this was a dotted line, no. You could also write these coordinates and plug them in for x and y to get a true statement. Number 12, working out at the gym for 50 minutes. Here's the graph for that. This is asking about domain and range. So you could draw your window. You could use Scratchpad if you needed to. Notice these have closed circles. This is continuous. So remember your formula, something is less than x is less than something. Something is less than y is less than something. Now, these are closed circles, so we know these are all or equal to. Remember, we always go lowest to highest. So my lowest x down here is 0. My highest x is 50. My lowest y is 0. My highest y is 100. Please, please, please read carefully. This one says domain, all real numbers from 0 to 100. That is not what we wrote. We wrote domain is 0 to 50. So no, notice they've flip-flopped this. This says range is 0 to 50. They've crossed these. Please, if you don't read carefully, that's going to mess you up. This is saying these are horizontal and vertical lines. We don't even have a -2. So it has to be C. Look, 0 to 50, 0 to 100. Which graph can be used to find the solution to the system? Okay, you can do a couple of different things here. If you want to change these to y equals, and you can put it in the graph to see which one matches. So I'm going to minus my 2x. I get y equals -2x minus 4. Over here, this is already almost y equals. I need to divide everything by the -3. So y equals -2 over 3x. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. So you can do a couple of things. If you wanted, you could just go to your Desmos and you could graph that. You're going to graph both of these equations. Y equals, don't forget that negative. Sometimes we don't always type it in correctly. -4 and y equals -2/3 x minus, make sure you don't put the x in the bottom. We got to put that x in the top. All right, so we can do that. I can tap it. It says my solution is 0, -4. And I can also see my picture here. So I'm looking to see, this picture does not match. This picture does not match. So I can come over here. This one does. This one does not. Look at where those are crossing. Okay. Which graph represents the solution set for the system? So you're going to have to do some graphing here, some changing, right? Minus x. Divide everything by 2. We did not divide by negative, so we are not flipping. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. So there's the first one. I can add my x. Again, I didn't divide by a negative, so my inequality stays. Now, all of these lines are identical. We're not worried about that. Look at your signs. These are both less than, so they're going to both be below and they're going to both be dotted. So A and D are out because those are solid. If I want below, so here's my first one. Here's below. Here's below. I can physically color on it. You can use scratch pad in Eduphoria. So this one does not have the overlap in the right spot, so it has to be C. Here we have to write our system and solve it. All right, we have morning and we have afternoon. It doesn't give us a letter. You could use X, you could use M, you could use Y, you can use A as long as you're consistent. So I have 16x plus 12y is 141. I have 10x plus 15y equals 123.75. You could use elimination. You could use substitution. There's all kinds of different methods that you like. If you want to graph it, right, we would minus the 16x and divide everything by 12. And I'm going to leave that a fraction. Here, I would minus my 10x. I kind of ran out of room, sorry. And divide everything by 15. If I go to my Desmos, remember, you can put those in with the fractions. Why? If you don't change this correctly, though, it's not going to matter. 141 over 12, because that is not a very pretty number. And then we have minus 16 over 12. Don't forget your x. Here, 123.75 over 15. Again, it's okay number. But if you get, this is a minus 10. If you get a repeating decimal, you need to leave it as a fraction. Otherwise, it's not going to do it correctly because it's rounding. I can tap. Now, I get 525 and 475. Both of those are choices. So we need to read carefully. What is the morning route? Well, my morning route was X. So that means our answer is, in fact, A. Okay. What is the rate of change? Rate of change is the same as slope. It is M. You cannot find rate of change from a standard form equation. You have to change it to y equals, which we've been doing over and over and over. So y equals, this is a -2. Guys, some of you simplify this incorrectly. A lot of you tell me when you see this, you're like, oh, that's -2. It's not. If you are not sure what that is going to simplify to, please, please, please use your calculator. This is a -1/2. That is with the x. So our slope is a -1/2. If that is multiple choice, I promise you one of the answers is going to be a -2 because they're going to anticipate that you're going to do that too quickly and you're not going to be able to find that right answer. All right, last two. This one is a little tricky. Okay, you have to write your equation. So I'm going to write my slope. It is negative. Pay attention to the direction of the line. I'm going down 9. I'm going over 6. If I put that in my calculator, it is a -3/2. My y-intercept is right here. So my B is 9. My line is solid. I'm shaded below. So this tells me below is less than, solid is or equal to. So when I write my inequality, y is less than or equal to, my slope was -3/2x. My B was 9. Now, these are all in standard form. So remember, no fractions, x and y on the same side, and a is a positive. So the first thing I'm going to do, I have a fraction here. This is very ugly. I'm going to multiply by that denominator every single number. This is not a negative I'm multiplying by, so nothing changes. Now, so no fractions anymore. I'm going to move my x to the same side as my y. 3x plus 2y. Again, I haven't multiplied or divided by a negative, so that stays. And a is positive. So which one looks like this? Letter D. All right, very last one. You have a table, you have a graph, you're just writing the system. You can use list and spreadsheets here. If you're using list and spreadsheets, please, please, please remember to put your X and your Y. Also, notice this table is going across. Make sure you put your X's in the right spot and your Y's in the right spot. All right, menu 413, XY, enter, enter. So I'm going to come down here for line H. Y equals negative 0.75x plus 2. Now, you could also write that as a fraction, negative 3/4 x plus 2. For the graph, if you feel comfortable counting, rise over run, we could say rise to, because I've given you a dot. This is a positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my slope is 2/8. Again, simplify carefully. 1/4. My b is negative 4. You could put those coordinates into the calculator. You have negative 4 and negative 5. Here you have 4, negative 3. So if you needed to, if you weren't sure about the whole counting thing, you could go through. You could say 4 and negative 4. Make sure you match them up. 3 and negative 5. Menu 413, X and Y. Apparently I put something in wrong. Hold on. Negative 4. Oh, I did not put a negative on my 3. Again, the importance of typing it carefully, right? So here's my M and my B. 0.25 is the same as 1/4 and minus 4. Please study. If you have questions, ask. Have a great evening.